In this video, I'm going to run through the techniques used in my new pattern called Knock Knock Convertible Mitts. And if you're unfamiliar with convertible mitts, this is a fingerless mitten that has a little pop top on it that will keep your fingers warm. And when you need your fingers back to use your device or pick up after a dog or whatever, you can just flip the top back and you don't have to take your gloves off. This pattern includes instructions for both thumbless, with an open thumb, and a closed thumb, and we'll get a close-up look at both of these in just a moment. This is an intermediate pattern. If you haven't used double-pointed needles, or you haven't knit socks before, or if you're new to fingerless mittens and you want to give them a try, I'm going to give you a link to my pattern called Easy Fingerless Mitts. It's a free pattern and video tutorial. Give those a try first. They're knit with a little bit thicker yarn, and then you can move on to these. These actually use sock yarn, and which is really cool because there are so many cool self-striping sock yarns out there. You can use them for something other than socks, and I'm sure you probably have some in your yarn closet, yarn room, wherever you're storing yarn. If you would like to get your copy of this pattern to follow along, just click the little eye in the upper right-hand corner to go to my website. All the information about the yarn that you need. I think you can get 2 pairs of mitts out of one 100-gram hank of yarn. I want to verify that because when I checked last time, I think that was the case. And all the information about the yarns that I've used here will be on my website, as well as in the video description field below. The last thing I want to say is once you complete these, once you finish these mitts, you will have all of the techniques down for knitting any of my toe-up socks. This little pop-top part of it actually uses German short rows just like my socks, and I have a cam snap in here to hold the top back, and we're going to I'm actually going to put that in a separate video, and that's coming out next week depending on when you're watching it. If that video is already available, I'll give you a link. Just click the little eye to the adding snaps to your knitting video. Anyway, I know there are like a million things I want to say, but I want to be sure to give you a close-up of all this before we get started. So up next, that's what we'll do. If you have your pattern and your sock yarn and your needles, you are ready to go. You don't have to use self-striping sock yarn for these, obviously. It's an easy way to get a bunch of colors in without a bunch of ends to weave in, of course. I really like them, and there are so many to choose from. Any sock yarn that you have will do. But let's go and take a close-up look at the mitts. Here is my rainbow set. I actually used the extra yarn that you can buy, or sometimes comes with the yarn, with sock yarn. The yarn that's for the heels and toes, the separate color, that's what I used for the top and bottom cuff and the little pop top mitt. And I have a cam snap in here. You see that? Flip it over, keep your fingers warm, and then you just pull it back and snap it back. And the cam snaps work well because you don't really need a strong snap. It's not a lot of weight on that snap, and it's kind of gentle on the knits. So this is the mitt style with the open thumb. And I should mention also that I have 2 sizes here for smaller and larger wrists. This is the smaller one, and this is the larger. And this is the closed thumb. And we have the snaps in this one too. The choice is yours for the size you want to knit and whether or not you want a closed thumb. So because this is an intermediate pattern, I'm not going to start off with casting on and working on the double pointed needles. I'm going to jump right into the thumb gusset. And here, obviously, I have much bigger yarn, much thicker needles, and I'm just using an abbreviated stitch count to get through this more quickly, so you can just watch what I'm doing. This is the beginning of my round, and I'm working this on 9-inch circulars. However you want to work them, it's totally up to you. I actually like to work on 9-inch circulars for all the length of the mittens or anything that I'm working on. And then when I actually have some shaping coming in, like the gusset shaping here, let's take a close-up look at the gusset. I like to switch to double-pointed needles when I do the gusset. And this is the thumb gusset here. We have a line of 2 increases that allow for the way that our thumbs stick out from our hands. And to achieve that, you'll follow the pattern and you'll begin working increases by placing a couple of markers. And in the first round, I placed my marker and I worked a single make one stitch. Make one right or make one left, it's up to you. And then as we work through the series of increases, the pattern, what am I trying to say? The rows in the increase pattern, you knit up to your first marker, slip the marker, make one left. You're going to pick the bar up between the two stitches, put your needle in from front to back, and then get your needle into the back loop of that stitch. You see how I did? I kind of wrapped the needle around the other one, and then knit through the back loop of that stitch. And then knit up to the next marker. In this case, it's just one stitch. I'm going to do a make one right. So I pull up the yarn between the two, put my left needle in from back to front, and I'm going to knit through the front loop of this stitch. I'm going to work the increase pattern rows, and next time I come up to an increase round, I will do a make one left, knit up to the marker, make one right, and then knit the rest of the way around. And just that little thing ends up giving you a beautiful gusset that fits your thumb. It's pretty standard for all mitten patterns to do a gusset like that. Okay, so once we do that, you follow the pattern and you're going to end up with something not nearly this big, of course not, with lots of stitches between, and the different sizes have different numbers of stitches between, but these two obvious increase lines. And what you're going to do here, we're going to pretend at this point that I'm finished knitting the thumb gusset. I need to reserve these stitches. So I'm at my beginning of my round here. I'm just going to knit up to the thumb gusset. And in this case, I'm on double pointed needles. I think it's easier to work the increases on double pointed needles. And I don't mind double pointed needles. I'm trying to get more people to fall in love with double pointed needles. So I knit up to the first marker. I can take that marker out. I have a tapestry needle ready with some scrap yarn, and I'm just going to slide all of these stitches onto the tapestry needle and the yarn. So those are reserved. Those are going to wait for us to come back to them. Now I'm going to do a backwards loop cast on, because we're going to start knitting these together. We're going to go from here to here. We want just one stitch cast on between the two where the thumb stitches were removed. So I'm going to take my yarn, wrap it around my thumb once, and get my needle in there and tighten it. And that's a backwards loop cast on. It's not a great cast on stitch. It's a good cast on stitch for just adding little things like this. Let me do this one more time for you. Got my working yarn, my thumb's on the yarn, twist my thumb forward, put my needle in there and tighten it up. Okay. And then knit the rest of the way around. You can see those thumb stitches are just going to wait there for you to come back to them. And regardless of the kind of needles that you like to use for knitting in small circumferences like this, I do recommend double pointed needles for knitting the thumb. When you finish the rest of the mitten, come back to the thumb. Double pointed needles are actually easier when you have so few stitches. But in this case, we are going to just finish knitting up the hand in stockinette, and then knit the ribbing at the top. And I'll tell you, it's really up to you how long you want to knit this. I personally like fingerless mitts to hit me just below my knuckles. Maybe that's a little longer than some people like them. Maybe you like them down here. Keep in mind that you're going to be putting the convertible top on, so if they're a little bit higher, you will have less of a gap between well, you're not going to have a gap, it overlaps quite a bit, but the more you have, the less chance there is that cold air is going to come in if you make them a little bit higher. Anyway, I'm sure you can figure that out. Next up, we are going to do the convertible top, and again, this is the way that you make socks. Coming up. We're ready to get started with the convertible top. And again, this is just like knitting a lot of my toe-up sock patterns. If you have knit my toe-up sock patterns before, you probably don't need this part of the tutorial. But if you have knit this and you're excited to try some socks, if you click the little eye in the upper right-hand corner to go to my website, on my website I will have a couple, maybe a few examples. No, how many? I'll have more than one example of sock patterns that use this exact technique. Because you'll probably be excited to knit some socks next if you haven't done that yet. We're going to use a provisional cast on and German short rows to do the shaping and the top of the mitt. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, for this I need a crochet hook and some scrap yarn. This I always use worsted weight yarn, regardless of the weight of yarn that I'm knitting with. It's just easier. You don't really have to know how to crochet to do this. I don't know why I'm starting my slip knot way down there. It's like I think I'm doing a long tail cast on. Okay, so I've got my slip knot. I'm going to tie a little knot in the yarn here by my slip knot so that I can tell which end is the slip knot end, because that's going to make a difference. And I like to get a few chain stitches there. So this is how we're going to do the provisional cast on. You want to set the knitting needle on the yarn, reach the crochet hook over and pull that through the loop on the hook. Then pull the yarn back behind the needle, reach the crochet hook over and pull it through. And you'll just do this for as many times, you'll cast on the number that the pattern tells you for the size that you're knitting. And then I'm going to chain a few stitches again. And then, oh no, cut this yarn and then pull that last loop through. You don't have to tighten it too crazy because we are going to come back to it. And then I'm going to start with my actual sock yarn. In this case, it's worsted weight yarn left over from my tapestry kit. I'm going to knit across these stitches. And I'm just doing a real abbreviated little top here for you with just a few stitches. And then purl back across. And the provisional cast on is giving us a way to retrieve live stitches from the cast on. So that we get a seamless top. Okay, we're all set up. And now we're going to start the German short rows. The pattern gives you the exact numbers to knit for the size that you're knitting. But I can just tell you on this first one, we're going to knit all the way to the end. And now I'm going to turn the work And I'm going to do the German short row technique here. I'm going to slip that stitch from the left needle to the right and then pull up on that stitch and pull the yarn forward between the two needles. And that gives you a funny double stitch. It's exactly what you want. And you pull it forward between the two needles so that we can purl across this row. And we're going to purl all the way to the end. Turn the work. I want my working yarn in front for this because I'm on the knit side. I'm going to slip that stitch, pull up on that stitch. It gives me another funny double stitch. It's not quite the same looking as the last one, but I'm going to knit across. It's a funny double stitch, but they're, depending on which side of the work you're on, they look a little different from each other. I'm going to knit up to the second to last stitch, turn my work. I'm on the purl side, so my working yarn is already in front. I'm going to slip that stitch from the left needle to the right, pull up on it, yarn forward so my work is in front so that I can purl. To the second to last stitch. Turn the work. I'm on the knit side. I want my working yarn in front. Slip that stitch, give it a tug, and then knit. To the third to the last stitch. We're going to do this one more time on both sides. Turn the work. My working yarn's already in front, so I'll slip that stitch from the left to the right, give it a tug, yarn forward, and purl. Turn the work, yarn forward, slip the stitch, give it a tug. Okay, we've finished the first half of our little mitten top. Now we're going to go back and deal with those German short row stitches that we left. So I'm going to knit up to the first double stitch, and again the pattern gives you exact stitch numbers. Knit up to the first funny double stitch. Knit those two funny double stitches together as one and the next one. Turn the work, and we're going to work a German short row here, just like we have been, and then purl up to the first funny double stitch. Purl those two halves together and the next one. Turn the work. I'm going to work a German short row here. So yarn forward, slip the stitch, give it a tug, knit up to, the next funny double stitch, knit those two halves together and the next one. Work a GSR here. Purl them together and the next one. One more GSR. We just have one left, so we're going to knit those two together, turn the work. I always like to slip this stitch here. And then purl up to my last funny double stitch. And purl those two together. Okay, you can see the shape that we have here. Definitely shaped knitting. And now we want to get these live stitches or these reserve stitches live again. So find the end of your yarn that does not have a knot in it, because over here there's a knot. This was my slip end. I want the non-slip knot end. And I'm going to pull that out so I can unravel this. I've got a needle ready in my hand, ready to go to pick these stitches up. The first stitch is always wonky. The yarn runs right through it. So I'm going to get my needle in there and then pull that out. There we go. And then from here, the rest of them are a lot easier. The reason we used a different color scrap yarn is to make this easier to see. You see I have this green V and then the rust color yarn, or I think this is actually called papaya color yarn coming out of the top of it. I want to put my knitting needle under the right leg of the green V, my sock color, my yarn, my sock yarn. And then I can do it on the next one and the next one. If you've seen me do this before, I like to collect a few and then give the provisional cast on a tug. I'm going to put half of these stitches on one double pointed needle and half on a second. And I know I just cast on 10, so that was all of them. See, I promise your mitten top will be bigger than this. So now I'm ready to work in the round again. I have all the stitches live and I can start working in the round, just all knit stitches, so that I get a little top like this. You'll work following the pattern, you'll work in the round and then finish up with rib. And I'll tell you the exact length of the pop top is going to depend on how long your fingers are. So try on your mitten and you can actually take the pop top when it's not sewn on yet and give it a try and see, put it over the top of your hand and see how much longer you want to make it. And then when you're binding this off, the instructions that I give you are to do a regular bind off on half and a stretchy bind off on half. And you will sew down the regular bind off side to the mitten. And if you're using self-striping yarn, it's pretty sweet because you can see exactly where to stitch down. You don't have to worry about stitching it down crooked or something because you have this perfect line of what to follow. And so you want the non-stretchy side. You just set your mitten out perfectly and then set it down and then just follow along a stripe. That was the easiest thing for me to do. And all I did here was every other stitch, I just whip stitched it down with a tapestry needle and the same color of yarn. Nothing fancy. I'm not great at sewing or anything. It's just a little seam there. And there isn't a lot of pressure on it or anything, so it's pretty simple. And then I've got the snaps here, and we're going to talk more about those. That's really all there is to it. And there are different options for how, or if you even want to secure the top down to the back of the hand. But I'm going to put in a separate video putting cam snaps in to something like this and how I've done this. And if that video is already available, then I will put a link to it in, just click the little eye in the upper right hand corner. And if it's not available yet, it'll be next Wednesday. I'll release the video. So that is it for the Knock Knock convertible mitts. I hope they keep your hands warm. Good luck.